إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا إنه من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل وسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. أما بعد عباد الله فإن أحسن الحديث كتاب الله وأحسن الهدي هدي نبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم شر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة. I praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as He should be praised, the creator of all things, the Lord of all things, the sustainer of all things. And I bear witness that there is no true deity worthy of worship except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that His Prophet Mohamed sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is His final and last messenger. O you who believe, have taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and do not die except in a state of Islam, in a state of submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. O you who believe, have taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and say the truth, say what is correct. If you do so, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will rectify and correct your actions, and whoever obeys Allah and His messenger, then he has already attained the ultimate success. Your brothers and sisters in Islam, the best of speech is the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the best of guidance is the guidance of His messenger Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And the worst of matters are newly innovated matters in this religion, because whatever is newly innovated in this religion will lead you astray, and whatever will lead you astray will lead you to hellfire. Your brothers and sisters in Islam, we're in the second third of Ramadan, almost halfway through. And by this time you tend to notice two things. The first is people mentioning how fast Ramadan is flying by. And things are amazingly just unnoticeably going very quickly. And this is not surprising, especially if you remember that the Prophet ﷺ had said that one of the signs of the closeness of the Day of Judgment, إِنَّ مِنْ عَلَامَاتِ السَّاعَةِ تَقَارُبُ الزَّمَانِ, that the time will become closer. Taqarub, which means it will get closer. And then the Prophet ﷺ, he would say, فَتَكُونُ السَّنَةُ كَالشَّهْرِ ويكون الشهر كالجمعة وتكون الجمعة كاليوم ويكون اليوم كحق الساعة. So the Prophet ﷺ, he said that the year would be as if it's a month, and the month as if it's a week, and the week as if it's a day, and the day as if it's an hour, and the hour passes as quickly as when you burn a piece of straw. Many of the scholars, when they looked at this, they commented, they said it indicates that the barakah in time is not there anymore. That the blessings that we have in our time is not there. Things that could naturally take us a few moments to accomplish can be extended, might take us a few hours, and so when you look like we've done the entire day, it feels like we have done nothing. And so similarly, perhaps this is why we feel that time passes very quickly, because of the absence of the barakah. That is one thing you notice. The second thing you notice is that compared to the first few days of Ramadan, the number of individuals attending the Taraweeh until the end has reduced. Maybe perhaps even our effort of exerting an effort in reciting the Quran and praying Qiyam has been reduced. And once again, we should not be surprised, because the Prophet ﷺ said, لِكُلِّ عَمَلٍ شَرًّا, that every action has a period of time of high activity, energy. وَلِكُلِّ شَرَّةٍ فَتْرًا, and to every those high activities and energy, there's a low period of low energy. There's a following period of low energy and lack of actions perhaps. But then the Prophet ﷺ had mentioned, he said, مَنْ كَانَتْ فَطْرَتُهُ إِلَى سُنَّتِي أَخْرَجَ سُنَّتِي قَدْ أَفْلَحَ. He said, whomever this period of low energy maybe perhaps a bit of laziness, is closer to my sunnah, then he has succeeded. Now, it's important to remember these two things so that we can prepare accordingly and plan accordingly so that we do not lose our momentum in Ramadan. So that we motivate ourselves properly, so that even in the middle of Ramadan, we are as active and energetic as the beginning of Ramadan. Because remember these two things, we have to understand, okay, fine, the time period is there's no barakah, so what can we do? Well, make dua that Allah give you barakah in your time. And there are some people among us, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed with this. They can accomplish so much in a short period of time, you're amazed by it. And so that's something that's important, the dua, remember that. But what about the low periods of energy? Well, we can motivate ourselves. I'm going to mention about 3 or 4 things quickly, time permitting, that we can use to remind ourselves and motivate ourselves so that we can take advantage of these moments that we have in the month of Ramadan. Now, one of the first things we can remember is that Ramadan is only a few days. In fact, this is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala described it in the Quran purposely. He said, أَيَّامًا مَعْدُودَاتٍ. أَيَّامًا مَعْدُودَاتٍ, a few days. Because if we look at something that is only for a few days and it's going to pass, it makes us realize that we can wait things out. Be patient with what we're doing. It's going to end soon. That they are going to pass quickly, so take advantage of it. It puts us in the correct mindset so that we could do the best we can in the few days that we have. أيامًا معدودات. That's one thing we can remember. Another thing we can do to motivate ourselves is to remember that each day in Ramadan is a wave of blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Each day in Ramadan is a chance that we can be forgiven if we exert enough effort in Ramadan. If we exert enough effort in that day to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has mentioned those two things along the lines of a hadith. Mohamed al-Maslama, he had mentioned, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, إِنَّ لِلَّهِ فَأَيَّامِ الدَّهْرِ نَفَحَاتٍ. That verily in the time of Allah, days of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there are waves of mercy. فَتَعَرَضُوا لَهَا. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is ordering us, so expose yourselves to these waves of mercy. لَعَلَّهَا تُصِيبُ أَحَدَكُمْ فَلَا يَشْقَى بَعْدَهَا أَبَدًا. Perhaps it might afflict one of you, or one of these waves might hit you, that you would not be miserable ever again, meaning that you'd be forgiven. You don't know which day that is. It could be today, it could be tomorrow. Why waste it? Especially when we know that the Prophet ﷺ said in Ramadan, وَلِلَّهِ عِتَقَاءٌ مِنَ النَّارِ وَذَلِكَ فِي كُلِّ لَيْلَةٍ. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has those that He frees from the hellfire. And that is in every single night. And whomever Allah flees from the hellfire, Allah is more generous that He would make him go back to it. It's amazing. So we remind ourselves of these things to encourage and motivate ourselves. The third thing we can remember when we talk about this is that we should perhaps put ourselves in a point of, or a position of accountability. We should judge ourselves, what did we do right now? From the beginning of Ramadan, what have we accomplished? Be honest with yourself. Did we do what we can, or did we waste some of our times? This accountability is very beneficial. We do it anyway in many other things. We always put those who work for us into account. We make them accountable. What did you do? How much did you sell? Where's the tax? We should put ourselves in that position. Judge ourselves. And Ibn Rajab al-Hanbali radiallahu anhu rahimahullah, he had mentioned something beautiful about this. And I'm going to read it for you so that I won't miss the aspect, and I'm going to translate it, inshallah. Rahimahullah, he said, when it came to the middle of Ramadan or close to Ramadan, he'd say, Ya ibadallah, O slaves of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, هذا شهر رمضان قد انتصف. This is Ramadan, it's close to its middle. It is its middle. We are at the 12th of Ramadan right now. It's 12th. It's the middle of Ramadan. He said, فَمَنْ مِنْكُمْ حَاسَبَ نَفْسَهُ فِيهِ لِلَّهِ وَانْتَصَفَ. Who among you has judged himself accordingly and put himself accountably in an honest way? And he was just with it. مَنْ مِنْكُمْ قَامَ فِي هَذَا الشَّهْرِ الْحَقِّيِّ الَّذِي عَرَفَ. Whom among you has truly stood up in Ramadan in its due rights that you know that is befitting of this month. We know the virtues of this month, they would give it its right. من منكم عزم قبل غلق أبواب الجنة أن يبني له فيها غرفا من فوقها غرف. Whom of you had intended and had committed himself to build himself in Jannah before the doors closes? Remember, in Ramadan all the doors of Jannah are open. Whom of us have intended and made a strong resolve to build himself in Jannah before it closes, rooms above rooms? Whom of us thinking about this in this way? The doors are open. Did we take the opportunity to build ourselves the rooms in Jannah one above the other? And then rahimahullah, he said, أَلَا إِنَّ شَهْرَكُمْ قَدْ أَخَذَ فِي النَّقْصِ فَزِيدُوا أَنْتُمْ فِي الْعَمَلِ. Your month has begun to reduce, so you increase in your actions. Do the opposite. One is increasing, one is decreasing, you increase. فكأنكم وقد انصرف فكل شهر عسى أن يكون لكم منه خلف وأما شهر رمضان فمن أين لكم منه خلف. He said, hastily do it before it runs out, the days of Ramadan runs out, because every other month, when it goes away, another month can replace it, except Ramadan. If it leaves, where can you replace it from? From the blessings that we have in Ramadan. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم. إن الحمد لله حمدا كثيرا طيبا مباركا فيه وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين وتمام بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. Dear sisters in Islam, one more thing we can do to help motivate ourselves is perhaps try to remember some of the virtues of those middle periods of Ramadan. There are virtues in every single day, but in the middle, around the second, third, those middle 10 days, there are virtues associated with it, multiple virtues. I'm going to mention only one. Many of the scholars mention that it is in those middle 10 days that the Quran was revealed to the Prophet ﷺ. In those middle 10 days, the Quran was revealed to the Prophet ﷺ. And so many of the companions and the pious predecessors, they made sure they would increase, in fact, the acts of worship and recitation of the Quran, more specifically from those 10 days and beyond. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala informed us of the virtue of Ramadan. Why? Because this was the month that the Quran was revealed in. شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن. The month of Ramadan that the Quran was brought down in it, was revealed in it. And so specifically in those 10 days. Now, can you imagine what kind of virtue those days have? We should remember this and take advantage of it. And speaking of the Quran, the connection that we have with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, His word that He left for us as a guidance, as a rope we can hold on to connect us with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The book that He gave us for the purpose that we ponder and think about it, to guide us to the straight path. In it, there are cures for the diseases of the heart, something that we direly need in the time that we live in. So shouldn't we renew our relationship with the Quran in this time? The pious predecessors had amazing efforts in the month of Ramadan when it came to the Quran. Some of them would finish the Quran every 10 days. Some every 7 days. Some every 3 days. Some every 2, and some every single day. Don't be too amazed about this. This is from the barakah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them, the blessings that they have, because of perhaps the effort that they wanted to exert to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And believe me, if you try to do it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will provide for you the means and possibility. So let us renew our relationship with the Quran. From now on, let's try to do something that is different. Let's have a plan, and I'm going to mention 4 things that we can do quickly, because we're talking about the virtues of the Quran in Ramadan. This is one of the things that we can motivate ourselves to do more acts of worship in Ramadan in those 10 days, all the way until the end. And so one of the things we should intend is to increase our recitation of the Quran. But we need to do this by putting a plan, a detailed plan of how much we're going to read and intend, each based on their ability. Yes, we understand some can read the Quran faster than the others. So based on your abilities, put in a plan that is appropriate for you, but a plan that you're going to abide to, that includes when you're going to recite the Quran and how much you're going to recite it. Don't deviate from that plan. And that should start from now and then continue perhaps until next year, inshallah. The second thing we can do is start another form of recitation at the same time. But this one is more of a recitation of reflection. It has to do with us trying to understand the meaning of the Quran a bit more. Because that's the main purpose of the Quran being revealed. لِيَدَّبَّرُوا آيَاتِهِ, so that you reflect on its verses, to learn from it. What is the point of a book that is revealed that we recite and don't understand? The point of it is that we act upon it, and we will not be able to act upon it until we fully understand it. Which means that we should try our best to comprehend what's in it. So start a new recitation, one that lasts longer than Ramadan. It can last a year or two. That is fine. That has to do with you trying to understand its meanings. And I'm not talking about you holding the tafsir ibn Kathir. If you never read a tafsir before, do not do that. Start with something that is smaller. Something that you're able to accomplish. Even if it's a translation of the Quran to help you understand. 1 page a day or half a page, do this throughout the entire year, and perhaps even a year or two, but by the end, this is a khatma, a type of finishing the Quran that is important for us to connect us with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to connect us with the Quran, to have more impact with its teaching. The third thing we can do is that when we talk about this, is that we memorize the Quran. Have something that is a new development in your life. By the way, many of the Sahaba had memorized the Quran at an older age. So an age is not a factor, by the way. I understand when most people mention this, they say, an old age we cannot memorize. That is not true. Your memory is like a muscle. The more you train it, the better it gets. So start a memorization session of the Quran. Once again, all based on your abilities. But keep at it. Eventually, if Allah gave you enough life, you can memorize the entire Quran. If not, then you're on your road and you'll be rewarded accordingly. The memorization of the Quran should include within us correcting our tajweed, correcting our pronunciation of the Quran, how we recite it. So maybe pick up a class. This is from the renewing of relationship with the Quran. Now, the last thing we can do perhaps is to encourage others and to support the institutions that provide the teachings of the Quran, whether it's for children or adults. Because this is now you are actively helping others to memorize the Quran, to be able to recite the Quran. So it goes from just things that affect you only to things that transcend you to benefit the others. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to benefit us with the Quran. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us among the people of the Quran. Make us among those who are able to recite it and understand it and implement it in a way that would make Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala love us. In a way that would make us elevate in ranks in Jannah. So that would be from with the prophets and the pious predecessors and the martyrs. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us among those who are able to complete Ramadan and fast it in a way that we would benefit from it in the best way possible. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept our acts of worship from prayers and recitation of the Quran and the sadaqat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad, al-ahya' minhum wal-amwat, warhamna rahmatika ya arhamar rahimin, nas'aluka al-huda wat-tuqa wal-'afafa wal-ghina. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا على ما وزدنا علما. اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه. وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم على محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين وقوموا إلى صلاتكم.